in San Antonio, Texas. You're on live with Matt and John. How are you?
Hello, Matt. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Better now.
All right. Well, hey, first, I just wanted to give a shout out to your call screener, Kevin. He's doing a great job. I really appreciate that guy's work.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, and so basically, I just wanted to ask you if you would say that you believe there is no God.
Depends on which God you're talking about, but yes, for some of them, for any of them that are falsifiable or in directly conflict with what we know about reality, I actively believe those gods don't exist. For others, I'm just not convinced that they do exist.
I guess what I mean specifically is one supreme being without a second that is infinite and, is everything is a part of it, whatever it is, him, her.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that God exists. That doesn't mean I'm convinced that God doesn't exist. To me, it's an unfalsifiable proposition that has never presented sufficient evidence to believe it. So it's like asking me, do you think the Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist? Well,
okay.
The position is I'm not convinced it does exist because sufficient evidence hasn't been presented. I may also be convinced that it doesn't exist if there's evidence against it. So any religious God model that includes, for example, the notion of a soul, I think that those are demonstrably false, because what we know about a soul, or what is attributed to a soul, are all identifiable and malleable functions of a brain. We can, through brain trauma, we can completely change somebody's personality. We can change their memories. There's a great study V.S. Ramachandran did where somebody severed the corpus callosum. I think they do it for epileptic grand mal seizures, but basically you end up with your brain split in half. And when that happens, and in this particular case that he was studying, you end up with two distinct personalities, two individuals who can communicate independently. One of them will have access to the vocal cords and can speak, and the other one has to write. And what's interesting is not only did it result in two independent personalities in one single brain, which doesn't make sense if there's a ghost in the machine, but also one of them was a believer in God and one of them was an atheist. And so the question then, there's a lot of other things, the math with souls, when you have like a fertilized egg splitting and rejoining and all this other stuff. There's a couple of really good books on the subject. I wish I could remember one of them off the top of my head, but I can't. But I think the soul is the single most clearly, obviously dead concept in all of theology. And any God and religion that is contingent upon a soul, something to save, I think those are, I'm not asserting absolute certainty about anything, but I'm convinced that those are false.
I see. So are you referring to a specific doctrine about the soul, or just in general?
Just in general of what humankind is kind of referred to the soul as. Somebody could come up with a soul model that might be viable, but I haven't been presented one that makes sense given what we know about neuroscience.
Have you read the Bhagavad Gita?
Not entirely. I've read pieces of it.
The second chapter, and much of it, but the second chapter in depth describes the soul.
Okay.
And it actually describes the size of the soul.
How did they measure that?
Well, the thing with the Vedic literature is that the information is not coming from an empirical source. It's coming from a transcendental source.
How do you know that?
And so I'm telling you this is self-purported by the Vedas.
Sure. They claim that they have a transcendent source, and so there's some way for them to quantify a soul. Well, I'm not convinced that they have a transcendent source or that any such transcendent source should exist. But even if one,
fair enough.
But even if one does, I still don't understand how they were able to quantify a soul.
Sure. Well, I'm definitely not asking you to accept the validity of those claims. Simply to be open-minded enough to know that it could be, it couldn't, it may not be. But
no.
The jury's still out.
No.
They say.
So that's the thing. I'm plenty open-minded, but when you say it could be or it couldn't be, that's not the case. I don't know that it's possible. I also don't know that it's impossible. So I couldn't say that it could be the case or that it couldn't be the case.
Well,
I literally...
That's exactly what I meant, though.
I understand. I wanted to clarify that. The perception of atheists or people, in my position is that we categorically reject and deny even the possibility of these things, and that's not the case. We are not convinced that they're real, and in some cases, we are convinced that they're not real.
I see.
And certainly the burden of proof. So, like, if we go back to the Vedic text, they've got a claim that they've got a transcendental source and it quantifies the soul. Now, how do we show that that's correct? That either of those things are correct?
Right. So that specifically it's too small. I believe it's on the atomic level. They say it's 1/10,000th the width of a human hair.
Yeah, but that's not an answer to my question. The question was, how do we know that's right?
You're interrupting me. If you will let me finish. Now, to be honest, I don't know if people have done research trying to find something that size. It says it's located in the heart region.
Why should I care what it says until I'm given a demonstration of why I should care? So the thing is, this is all a claim. And I'm asking, how would you demonstrate that the claim is correct? And going on with more details about what the claim is doesn't get me anywhere closer to whether it's correct. You might as well be saying, all right, hey, this ghost told me that a soul is actually smaller than a freckle and it exists in a hidden spot on your body that is only there on Thursday afternoons. You just keep adding to the claim and not and not now who's interrupting.
Fair enough.
And not to how we could know.
I'm interrupting to get my spot back. I mean, you're...
I've asked a specific... So here's the thing. There's 6 people on the phone lines. I'm trying to figure out how we could actually demonstrate that this is true, because this is not a show where we need people to come in and just keep making more and more claims. I want to know how.
Sure. Well, I mean, the reality is that isn't the point that I even wanted to bring up. I mean, it was just in the process of mentioning about the Bhagavad Gita. So, I mean, if you haven't read any, like, I can't go bit by bit because, like you said, you have all of these people in line. So to answer your question of how to demonstrate these things, well, in a broader sense, I want to, explore that, some of them, let's accept we can't demonstrate, okay, here's the soul. I don't think anyone's found it yet. Okay, so that can't be demonstrated.
Okay, then it's useless.
What I'm trying to say is that there are some things that cannot be demonstrated, but there are others that can be demonstrated.
And as a skeptic, I'm willing to believe the things that are demonstrated and not believe the things that can't be demonstrated.
Okay.
Why would anybody believe things that can't be demonstrated?
Well, you gain faith in the source because things that are demonstrated, you see that, okay, they are true. And then it gives you faith that things that you actually can't demonstrate because of the limits of our empirical knowledge. If we had better abilities, we could sense some of these things. What?
You just said, I was asking why people would believe things that can't be demonstrated, and your answer was so they can get faith in the source. But if they can't be demonstrated, you don't get to call them true, you don't get to assume they're true, and now you are adding faith or confidence to us.
That's not what I said. No, I said the things that can be demonstrated, you see that they are true, and then you can gain faith in the source for the things that you can't empirically demonstrate.
Sure. So if I say 10 things and we can demonstrate that 8 of them are true, does that give you any information about whether the other 2 are true?
Well, if they're coming from the same source, then I have some basis for thinking that there may be some truth to it.
Okay.
If I give you stock picks and I give you 10 hot ones in a row, the next one I'm going to give you, you're going to have some faith in it.
So this is actually a scam?
Yeah.
So what you do is you send out stock picks to 50,000 people, and then to the group that got the correct stock pick, you send out another set and another set and another set, and eventually somebody's going to get to the point where they've got 10 hot stock tips in a row, which were...
I've seen that movie too.
Okay, so you don't recognize that now you've just presented a flawed epistemology?
Okay, so J.P. Morgan is a scam. Like, there's, there's big.
No, I'm not denying
billions and billions of dollars.
I'm not denying the value
for a living.
I'm not denying the value of data. I'm talking about
stockbrokers are scams.
He's saying
like,
just because one person gives you 10 correct stock tips in a row doesn't give you any confidence that the 11th is going to be correct, because the scam demonstrates that.
That in no time did I say the entire stock market was a scam or anything even remotely approaching that. I'm pointing out a flaw in the methodology that you presented, because if you get accurate information from a source, yes, you have good reason to think that that source is reliable. But if the next thing that you hear from that source, you accept it as reliable when there's no way to demonstrate that it is, you have now fallen into a fallacious trap.
I see. So in that sense, how do you feel about the science of the quantum world? We can't demonstrate it empirically.
Yeah, I don't actually consider it science yet. Now, I'm
Oh, really?
Hang on.
Okay.
I've pointed out before, you talk to the people who are experts in quantum physics, and they'll point out that if like Feynman said, anybody who says they understand quantum physics doesn't understand quantum physics. The thing is, these are mathematical models that are our best approximations, and as long as they keep producing reliable predictions, then they are useful in that context. But if somebody tells me that they've used quantum physics to prove God, now we're in a completely different ballpark. Now we're no longer dealing with mathematical models that are making predictions. Now they are extending something that has demonstrated reliability to an area where it's not demonstrated reliability, where there isn't something that you can demonstrate. That's the mistake. If I pull up my calculator and it gives me the right answer 9 times in a row, am I likely to think that it's going to give me a correct answer a 10th time? Yes, but that has nothing to do with the previous 9 answers. It's about the demonstrated reliability of the calculator and how it is designed for that function. When you talk about, the Bhagavad Gita says this and this and this, and those things are true, therefore it's reasonable to conclude that the soul is real and is, at the atomic scale, that does not follow.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sound like you cut out. Okay.
No, I just got to the end of a sentence.
Oh, I see. Well, all right. Well, I'm not going to take any more time. I really appreciate the explanation of